So when we were at CES this year and saw the MasteCase H500P Mesh White for the first time, I knew that it was going to become the new home for my workstation, well, back home. Having had the MasteCase 5 since launch and subsequently upgrading it along the way, I was confident that it would be a solid choice now that I would finally get to use my 360mm radiator in the top of my case. And to be honest, it was the white that helped it out quite a bit. When the H500P originally launched, I was turned off by the initial criticisms of quality and not really having a reason to replace my MasteCase 5. I held on to it, but it appeared that they did in fact address most all of those concerns. Parts support and extras abound with the H500P, as it should with a price tag of $150, and since its revision of the original H500P, as well as moving forward, we'll be focusing on the case rather than that of the past, as we did not actually review that one. And there are plenty of current reviews that focus on those changes. I would personally recommend looking into Hardware Canucks review, for example, for a great comparison, as they did get it right looking back then and now, in my opinion. And I do want to take a moment to point out a few of my biggest complaints and get those out of the way early. And they're relevant regarding building. So, lack of thumb screws. Seriously, this is a $150 case, and something as simple as thumb screws for the PCI expansion ports goes a long way in the ease of building, in my opinion, especially when it comes to changing parts out. Now, that issue persists through the next complaint, and that's the amount of parts that you have to take off in order to build in this case. It may actually be enough to run off newcomers to PC building if this is where they started. Want to install a standard hard drive? Well, get ready to remove the bottom cover, and guess what? No thumb screws there. In case you want to add another hard drive down the road. Or even just installing the initial ones. This means that you'll be getting the screwdriver out again. Well, the same thing goes for the rear cable cover. There's no thumb screws there either, leaving you to put the cover on in a very awkward manner, if you have a lot of cables. Now, those are a couple of my biggest issues. Now, let's get on to the rest of the case itself, starting at the top. The top of the case is held on by a single thumb screw. One of the only few in the case, mind you, allowing for the window top panel to be removed for easy access to the removable fan mount. Now, this is a great addition, as it allows you to easily mount up to a 360mm radiator or three 140mm fans outside of the case instead of needing to magically hold everything up from the bottom and get the screws lined up without dropping everything. It also gives you more access to the inside when installing components. It makes it really easy to install large air coolers. And the top acrylic duct cover does look gorgeous, but offers up concerns of airflow, and will inevitably become covered in scratches when it gets covered in dust. Mesh would have been a great alternative, but so would glass, as it would have held the aesthetics from either direction, but likely could have drove the price up. Maybe we'll see a mesh panel for sale as an accessory one day, because unless it's fully populated, it's really just a window from the top, and it looks kind of weird. Look right down into the case and see everything. Now, the case's front I/O is well laid out with two USB 3.0 ports and two USB 2.0 ports, allowing for plenty of connectivity, along with the headphone and microphone jacks. The power button light is tastefully done to illuminate in the Cooler Master logo, but it's a bit soft to the touch and feels a bit floaty. Now, there's a reset or a multifunction switch, as it can be used with the included RGB controller for the front case fans. Speaking of fans, the H500P comes with a pair of massive 200mm RGB fans in the front that are lit from the hub, giving a wonderful effect to lighting up the entire case well. These massive fans now sit behind a reinforced mesh wall rather than the acrylic in the past versions. The airflow is virtually unrestricted, save for a bit of filtering to catch the larger dust particles. Included with these RGB fans, since they need some type of control, is a small RGB controller that can be used with the reset button to switch modes. A very nice value add for those motherboards who are lacking RGB header function. Don't worry, there's also a fan in the rear, a solid white 140mm fan, I'm a bit torn on this one, but it does reflect the RGB lighting and adds to the overall appeal of the case. Removing this front panel is fairly easy by pushing the release tab at the top, but it's durable enough that it will not come open accidentally. Moving into the main compartment of the case is your standard affair, offering covers where cables would show, as well as a vertical GPU mount, which we decided to go with the Cooler Master vertical GPU bracket because the wind was blowing west and, well, quite frankly, I really wanted to try it out. Now, there is a nice basement cover that's fully removable in 2 parts, as well as being adjustable to support radiators in the front. Just a side note, mounting a radiator in the front retains the ability to keep the large front fan. Kudos to Cooler Master on that design. Under that basement is the location to install either 2 2.5 or 2 3.5 inch drives, along with 2 on the top of the basement or the rear of the motherboard tray if you so choose. The case can support ITX all the way up to EATX, which is nice, but having to install all of the standoffs but 2 ourselves wasn't really much fun. But it does keep things in line with the "make it yours" motto. The back of the motherboard tray is an interesting beast, to say the least. Might I point out that the top pass-throughs are missing grommets. For shame, Cooler Master. The biggest thing you probably notice isn't really just the massive amount of clearance that you get for cable. It's most likely going to be the covers. One for the CPU, with no other real function than to look pretty, and one for the main wad of cables. This is a really cool feature until you realize that there's no way to keep the cables in check under it without strapping them all together and, well, hoping for the best. I'm reminded of why the small cable tie mounts on the back side of the NZXT S340 were so good. Please, Cooler Master, you need something along those lines. I felt like I was fighting the back onto a case from about 10 years ago before cable management was a thing. However, the PSU can be easily installed thanks to the removable PSU bracket that has been thankfully updated from the original H500P to match that of the MasteCase 5. Now, that aside, the finished product is absolutely spectacular and made me glad my glass side panel from the MasteCase 5 would fit. Maybe I should just leave it on there. And since this is my workstation in there and it's water cooled, so temperature testing in all honesty is a bit out of the window, mind you, I have zero concerns whatsoever regarding getting fresh air in the front and hot air out the back. At the end of the day, the Cooler Master MasteCase H500P Mesh White has a crazy long name, but it has the chops to back it up. And all of the negatives I've already really only associated with the building of the PC. Once the thing's together, you'll see just how gorgeous it is and quickly forget how long it took you to get there. The H500P Mesh White has what it takes to impress. Good job, Cooler Master. Now at this point, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this case, so feel free to leave those in the comments down below. This has been Keith with WCCF Tech TV. We hope you enjoyed the review, and we'll catch you all in the next one.